Welcome to Season 2 of the South African Digital Marketing Podcast. My name's Terence Mentor, and I'm a digital marketer who's realized that since this industry is constantly changing, we need to be constantly learning. And I think the best way to learn all of the things is to talk to the people who are doing all of the things, so this podcast is a chance to do just that. Here's a question. What is the most important social media channel right now? The answer that we get in this episode really surprised me, but honestly, it makes a lot of sense. In this episode, we talk about just a slither of the huge topic that is social media with Meliswa Sitwele, who has a long career managing social media accounts and is currently head of social media at Flow Communications. We also chatted about how you can get your entire business on the side of supporting social media strategy. It was a really fun conversation, so let's get right into it. Here's Meliswa.
Cool. So my name is Meliswa Sitwele. Everybody calls me Millie. I am head of social media at Flow Communications. They are a remote company based in Johannesburg. Well, we used to have offices in Johannesburg, but now we have people all across South Africa that work for Flow. I am a former journalist, even though I didn't practice as a journalist, but I studied journalism, which is a great career path for somebody who's going to be a writer and works in social media. So I'm one of those old social media kids because I started working in social media around 2011, which makes me feel super old because I've seen everything. From when poking was a form of flirting and somebody would poke you 10 times in a life that had no wall on Facebook and they had no DMs. And then there were groups and everything. So I feel super old when it comes to social media. So I got into social media very early. One of the early adopters, started working on it. And I think that turned the trajectory of my life from, I started out as a community manager back in 2011. Well, I started as an online journalist at Flow, believe it or not. Then I left, I became a community manager at Native VML. It's now called VML Y&R. And then I went to Women in Home. I was a digital editor. Then I went to a company called Awetu Project. I worked as brand manager for digital. Then I went to Momentum for five to 6 years as a social media manager and CSI lead. And now I'm back at Flow as head of social media. So I've just had this journey that has just been like fully social media all my life. To a point, I love it so much, but I'm also like one day thinking that if I ever have to stop working on social media, what am I going to do with myself? Because my phone is always in my hand. My phone is always in my hand. I always kind of know what the new platform is, what people are doing on Instagram and everything. So it's a blessing and a curse, but I love it. So I'm in a remote, I work in a remote company, which is amazing for me because I can work from anywhere in the world, which I love. I'm from a town in the Eastern Cape called Engcobo, and they've recently installed fiber lines, which makes my life perfect because I can work from my grandmother's house while the chickens are roaming around, or I can work from my house in Centurion. I can work from my friend's house in Davao. And I think that's the beauty of working in digital marketing is that you can do it anywhere. So that's me in a nutshell.
What a great contrast where you're working on social media like this cutting edge technology that's kind of revolutionized the world, while the most basic produce is walking around you, kind of maybe must keep you a little bit grounded.
I'll actually send you a WhatsApp picture of one of my grand's very bougie chicken. That's always it's always in the Rondaville that I work from because that's where it lays its eggs. So, and I'm not moving and it's not moving. So obviously, it's always like a staring marathon between each other when I'm there. Where it's just like, this is my section. Why are you here? And I'm just like, babes, but this is where the coverage is. So
it's the tussle of the titans. It's the new Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson battle between you and this chicken.
100% happening in deep rural Eastern Cape, 34-degree heat on a Wednesday, with the teams meeting in the background.
Pinging in the background. So you have your career, spanning 14 years now, focusing on social media. That is. There aren't many people, I would say, in the world that could even say something like that. A lot of people only really got started thinking about social media when it became really profitable for brands to be doing that, which really only happened in South Africa much later on. So I can imagine if we wanted to spend we could get a lot of stories out of you about what Facebook was like in 2012, like you're saying, all the poking, or suddenly people start talking about this Twitter thing. What's that about?
Yeah.
And then Instagram suddenly arrives, and working through all of the new channels that are coming through and new trends that are coming through. But just before we started, we were talking about the fact that this is around about the time of the year when we start thinking about next year. And maybe not start, maybe we're in the middle of strategizing for what we're going to be doing for 2025. So since most marketing teams will be doing that right now, what do you see as the next kind of big trends for 2025? What kind of strategies should people be considering? What is the thing that's going to, superpower social media teams in South Africa?
Cool. So I think for me, I mean, I watch trends, I read them, I see what's coming up and what people can look forward to in terms of AI and Blue Sky and Instagram and whatnot. But I think for me, because I've been in social media for so long, I think at the core of social media is community. And there's something about building a bonded community online and ensuring that not you own those people, but that you are active in those people's lives. They see that the content that you write, it is for them. You are not talking at them, you are talking to them, and you are building a bonded community online. I think for me, that has been a trend for the longest time, and it will continue to be even in 2024. Authenticity as well. In a world where everything is like, is it AI generated? Did Midjourney create this? Or is this a real thing? There's a real hunger for authentic content, authentic people, real life stories. You see how Good Things Guy and SA Good News do things. There's something that brands can learn from that authenticity and just like being real and saying, if you are a brand, let's say you are Coca-Cola, but show me that Coca-Cola is here for me. They understand my needs. They are where I am, and I don't need to jump through hoops to get onto their social media. And I think also harnessing the power of AI. I mean, AI, as scary as it's been for marketers, because when AI, especially ChatGPT, came out, it was like, oh, woo, the end of life. We're not going to be any writers anymore because everything is going to be written by ChatGPT, and it's all going to sound the same. It's going to have unwavering and resilient and determination and tenacity. However, there's a part of AI that has made life so easy for us. Like when it comes to help me generate some ideas. How would you condense this article that I've written? Could you help me with like some numbers and nuggets and this? So harnessing that power of AI, it actually things that would take us 12 hours to do, AI can do them in 15 minutes. So I think like those kind of things are for me, they will continue being trends in the social media space. And also just like understanding where people are at, because I think we've seen like in the last couple of years, there's been a mass exodus on social media where people have said, I want to get off this, it's not for me and whatnot. But again, we understand that we can't live without it. So while I'm there on social media, whether it's my escapism from my kids, give me content that is valuable. So give me value for my content, value for my time. I always say when I do social media training that people need to stop and stare at your content. It needs to be thumb stopping, because you are on social media, you are fighting for attention with Chris Brown, who's coming here in December, with a new shoe that Adidas has released, with Blue Sky that's coming up. And whether you are so amazing or not, people need to have a reason to care and to stop at your content. So I think in essence, my 4 trends that I see still carrying on is authenticity, it's community, it is giving people value and harnessing the power of AI.
So, wow, I mean, that is like right there. That's the cutout for me for this episode. That's the highlight reel. That's the one I'm putting up onto LinkedIn. But just jumping off of what you're saying, I always think that we so quickly forget that it's social media. We get really focused in the content, making things slick and look good and sound good and be very clever and smart. And then we forget, no, this is about people. Like, this is about providing value to people, about, like you say, community to people. And if you're the place, if you're the club that everyone comes to spend time, then that's how you make your bucks.
Exactly.
And I think we're so quick to forget, because we're on a content marketing buzz, and not to say that you shouldn't work on the craft. You're a journalist. I'm sure copywriting is like something for you that you're really mastering. But it's so quick to forget that those are human beings that are engaging with your content. They're not just a number. It's not an engagement tick on social media, on Facebook, that we sometimes go for.
my sentiment, my engagement, my this. You're actually talking to people, and people have their own things that they're worried about, they're stressing about, and they come on. And social media is escapism. That's what I always say. Social media was created for you to escape your mundane life or your life that is spiraling out of control. You come onto social media and you're like, okay, let me give myself time and look through Millie's trip to Mauritius. Let me look through Terrence got married last week. What's happening there? But in between that, it's peppered with, oh, Coca-Cola is actually on social media, or Pep Stores is on social media. Oh, they've got this, or Checkers 60 has partnered with Lyft. Let me look at that. So you are finding people where they're in a space of, I am checking out stuff that applies to me. I'm escaping things. Therefore, try and meet me where I'm at. And don't be like, hard sell, product push. You must come to Checkers today. You're
Yeah.
not selling.
I
You're
mean,
not telling me to come to Checkers. Give me the feeling of coming to Checkers. What happens
yes.
when I walk into Checkers? I'm gonna get Checkers minis. I'm gonna walk and get my frozen produce, and my kid is going to push the little trolley. So that's what we have to, that's the mindset that we're going to be in. We have to be in.
Yeah, and the idea that I mean, I have this battle with people I've worked with before, especially non-marketers. You know, they want to have their message go out, and the question I keep asking every single time is, who cares? Like, who cares about what you
Yeah.
want to say and about what what you think is important? Because if you can answer that question, if you say my target audience does care about this thing or does want to read this, like you're saying, like does want to engage with this feeling, great, you're winning. But so often we're like, no, we've thought about our messaging, we thought about our three key messages, and we thought about, you know, the things that, you know, the USP of our product, and that's the thing that we're going to be talking about. And it's like, no one cares because the only people who care are the people who
It's
work in this
you.
company.
And then we get surprised when people don't engage with your stuff. And I always say to them, no, I always come across as, oh, I'm for the people, which is fine. I don't care. I can be for the people. But you care about your messaging because it's your messaging. People that are online don't need a reason to care. But then now, the biggest pet peeve of my life, okay, you've got your USPs, you've got your messages. Now you've gone out there and there's no call to action. There's nothing to do. So you've just told people that, oh, I am a red pouch. I slide and I slick through your hands. And when I'm so fashionable, your friends are gonna want this red pouch. And then that's the end of the content. And I'm just like, so what must I do now? Must I go Google red pouches? You don't tell me where to get the red pouch. You don't
Yeah.
tell me how much the red pouch is. You don't say anything. There's no call to action. It's just like a stock standard dead piece of content. And I get so upset. I get
Yeah,
so upset.
it's just a hey world, we're here. You know, just want to let you know that we exist. And what must I do with that? It is
Stop that.
yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things where again, you know, talking about that authenticity, just so you know, there's no AI involved with this podcast. Not because I have anything against AI, but some people might think, wait a second, Terrence sounds too good to be a real
Yeah.
person, and I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm bad at what I do. I'm
You're a
clearly
good
not AI.
person.
That's why I stutter occasionally, just to let people know that this is a real human.
I'm real.
Um, I'm real, but I think there are ways. I can see how quickly you can lose that authenticity when you're using the tools. And this has happened long before AI arrived. The moment a tool arrives to make it easier, people will then like spam that tool to try and get as much attention as possible. And so, like you're saying, with that authenticity being that trend, it's almost like yes, it's a trend for 2025, but it's always been there, right? It's always
Always
been
on.
simmering under the. It's always that thing where it's like the people who are authentic, who have real conversations. Surprisingly, over time, they're the ones that we think about and talk about years and years later.
All the
Um,
time.
yeah, so I'd like to shift now because again, I think we could talk about that for at least 4
Yeah.
hours. I can tell when I'm talking to another marketing nerd because we get so excited about talking about these kinds of things, and I have to reel myself in because like, oh no, I only have Millie for like a set amount of time. I have to get
Yeah.
through the other things that I've been thinking about. So and I also know that you're a real social media person when you mention Blue Sky. Like there's a small select group of us who know what that is at the moment. It's probably going to get bigger. But you know, if you're just starting a new brand or you've started in a new organization, they've decided now social media is a thing that they really have to start pushing. You have all of these platforms that are available to you that do a bunch of different things. How does a brand choose the correct social media platforms to be available on, or should they just like shotgun everything and just try and be everywhere all the time?
I will find them and I'll exercise them if they shotgun everything. Sorry, take that. Don't put that in the podcast. but But again, I have many pet peeves when it comes to social media. And another pet peeve of mine is literally just like waking up one day and deciding I sell curtains, and therefore I'm going to be on every platform known to mankind so that people can meet me. I think it starts with knowing yourself as a brand. Who am I as a brand? I am Kit Kat. I'm making an example. I'm Kit Kat. I sell chocolate. I sell taking a break. The people that need to take a break, I can find them on Twitter, or I'll find them on Facebook, or I'll find them on Instagram. How will I communicate the fact that I want you to take a break on these platforms? So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked before you actually get onto the platforms. Who am I? Who's my audience? If my brand were a person, where would they shop? What would they eat? Where would they go? And therefore that will influence which social media platforms that you go onto. And even once you've decided on to go into the certain social media platforms, there has to be a platform-specific strategy. Because, God forbid, if I'm going to see something on LinkedIn and on Facebook, then on Twitter, then on Instagram, because then you have not taken the time to learn your audience. You have not taken the time to know that when I'm on Instagram, I am dreaming of Bali, and therefore I want a Kit Kat in Bali, superimposed on a background in Bali. When I'm on LinkedIn, I want to read a thought leadership article on what Kit Kat is doing for sustainability. Where are the cocos being harvested? How is that community, faring, and what's happening? And if I'm on Facebook, I want to see a meme that's been created that speaks about this product. And if I'm on Twitter, I want a short, 2-second or 2-line funny joke about Kit Kat or something, that's a fact. So I always say to brands and people that I work with, look at yourself as a brand. Where do I fit in? Where is my audience? And what is my messaging? And the beauty of social media is that, unlike when we're back in the days of advertising where you had to write an ad in a newspaper and wait for 4 months to know if it worked, social media is agile. We can chop and change as we go. And if by some mistake you've gone onto a platform and you realize, no man, this platform is not for me, I'm not that kind of brand, you can actually be like, okay, we're moving here, we're going to focus all our energies on said platform. So with that said, I wouldn't advise any brand or anyone to just hop onto all the platforms. I think look at yourself, look at your audience, look at what you want to achieve, then get onto the platforms. However, for me, Facebook will always be, GOAT, because Facebook has the reach, Facebook has the cheap advertising rates, Facebook has the people. Believe it or not, people are on Facebook, and you can grow quicker. You can manage your pages better. You can write long form content, short form content. So I'd say Facebook is a nice, good start for a brand if you want to go in there. And if you're more visual and aesthetically pleasing, and you go into Instagram, also easier to grow on Instagram using the right hashtags, using the right images, using the right copy. TikTok is heaven for somebody that needs to grow quick, and for somebody that wants that can create content speedily, because you, even with 23 followers, you can create a viral video. You can literally be lucky and create a viral video, and that's how you grow on those platforms. So I think in essence what I'm saying is there's more that you need to go to think about before just like hopping onto a platform. But there are platforms where you are guaranteed that if you go in there with the right strategy for the platform and the right content and the right images, you'll strike gold.
I just want to say, I think whoever is the brand manager of Kit Kat, I hope they're listening, because they just got a free social media strategy for 2025. You just handed it over to them. So there's someone who's rubbing their hands with glee right now, going, "Oh yes, I know exactly what I'm doing." And also you can always see when they haven't really thought through the channel specific kind of content, because you'll see like an Instagram post with a link in the post that no one can click because they've just taken the copy from Facebook or from LinkedIn and they've put it in, and that drives me.
In the eye. I'm like, stop it, don't do it. And then someone asked me, it's like, why can't I click on a link on Instagram? It took everything out of me. I was like,
look, we can't all be Millie, okay? Some of us are working on a base of we don't have 14 years of experience at this, and it's one of those things where you go like, but surely that should be an obvious thing, and then you realize, oh wait a second, the whole point of these platforms is that they want to keep you on the platform. They don't want you to leave Instagram.
They don't want you to leave,
if you're going to do your shopping. do it on Instagram. And knowing that is where you need a social media strategist who can work that system. I do find it fascinating that you talk about Facebook, because the kind of standard language you see now is that everyone's leaving Facebook. It's for like older people. And I do wonder if it's because we get so much of our insights about social media from the US, where that is, that has been happening for the last few years.
Yeah.
But in South Africa, do you feel like you're saying Facebook is still the best place to start, get a good foundation there, and you can do whatever you need to do there to start with? Is that still a good strategy?
100%. 100%. And I love that you say, our stats come from the US, because even when I'm doing like trends analysis and everything, it's hard to find trends analysis that is like purely South African. But being a person that has been using the platform and still uses Facebook, and I think Facebook is a great place to start. Yes, some people have left because, I don't want to see a high school reunion or whatever. But I think for brands, Facebook allows you to grow quicker. Facebook allows you to do more. You can do albums, you can do videos, you can do reels, you can do copy on its own, and the shareability of Facebook and how Mark prioritizes, people who pay and what comes onto the feed. That really helps, because at some point somebody's going to come across your content. You can also get your friends and your family and the people around you say, hey, I've started this Facebook page, could you like it and share it? And then therefore you reach broader audiences. And I mean, Facebook on its own still has virality. And then come on to Facebook groups. Facebook groups are still big. All those closed groups, I know a guy, Brown Sense, Humans of New York, typical example of how they have been solid on Facebook. People still share their stuff. People still go onto those pages because that's the kind of audience, that is the kind of content that they want. So I wouldn't write off Facebook. Like, I'm one of those people that I know that for a marketer in this day and age in 2020, people are like, oh, Facebook is dead. We're like going onto like Blue Sky and stuff. And I'm like, I would never write off Facebook as a nice base for you to start from and to harness that community. I wouldn't write it off. And
especially since the fact that we've seen how volatile X is, and I hate calling it X. I hate calling it X. It's Twitter. Just, Elon, just go back to Twitter. It is Twitter, but we can see how volatile those, like, Twitter can be. Blue Sky, with being a new Twitter clone, is it going to last? We don't know. So you put all this investment into a new platform, and then it literally closes down in a few years' time, and all of that momentum you've been building for the last few months and all that investment is gone. It's gone. At least with Facebook, if Facebook is going to collapse, it's going to take at least a decade for us to see it really start happening. So that makes complete sense. And the other thing about, I think, just thinking about how we use Facebook, it's a good place to get your content creation systems going, because you can, like you're saying, you could do short videos, you can do photography, you can do nice photos, you can do long form, you can do short form. And once you get a good sense of what's working there, then you can say, right, let's start the Instagram page, let's start the LinkedIn account, and you can spread out the and it's one of those things where this is why you need a Millie in your life, because I've never thought of it that way. I've never thought of using Facebook as your base, and then you expect.
It's an amazing base to start from. Sorry to cut you. I was talking to my best friend's cousin. Is one of those people that has done everything in her life. She's put nails. She's like a nail technician. Then she started sewing. Then she baked, and she's done everything. And whenever she's got a new thing that she's obsessed with, always like, oh my God, Mikuti wants to start something new. But now she started something which she really likes. She's crocheting and making beautiful bucket hats. So she says to me, oh, Sis Mills, I'm making this beautiful bucket hats, and I don't know how to post. I've got an Instagram page. Please help me. And then I give her some tips, and she's like, oh, I must actually go onto Facebook. And I said to her, hold on, master the one platform that you're on. You are crocheting beautiful bucket hats. You live in Cape Town. You have the mountain to obsess over every day, and the ocean and whatever else.
We don't do that every day. It's only on days when the sky is clear, okay? Which is every second day.
I woke up and I couldn't see the mountain. My day's ruined. There's a cloud covering the mountain. I digress.
As a Capetonian, I want to defend us, but you're completely right.
Exactly. So I said to her, master the platform that you're on, which is Instagram. And once you have done that, then go onto Facebook because your whole thing is you don't know what to post. So I'm giving you ideas of what to post and how to go around it, and then use Facebook. And I said Facebook is your base. That's where you're going to find your people. That's where you're going to experiment and see, okay, once I post a poll, they don't like a poll. They actually like me when I post a video, when I'm the one crocheting, or they like my behind the scenes. And I'm like, you can play a whole lot more on Facebook than you can on the other platforms. So, I mean, it got me thinking as well that actually, to your point as well, Terrence, X has just gone bonkers. We've always trusted X. It was a source of information. The platform made sense. The user design was great. Everything was like, it made sense. And now you can't even get analytics.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
true.
why I'm also even scared. With Blue Sky, like I had a meeting with my team this week, and we have a Monday morning brainstorm meeting. So you come with an idea or something that's happening. So we ended up talking about Blue Sky. And we all said, let's give it a chance. Let's see what it does, what it looks like. Yes, it's nice to be an early adopter, but we also need to see, is it worth putting our time and energy into this platform? Because how long is it going to be here for? What does it mean? Can brands exist on Blue Sky, or is just going to be individualized? So yeah, you've awoken my inner social media nerd.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I'm on the verge of opening a Blue Sky account just for myself. But again, it's just for experimentation, just to get a sense of what's going on. And potentially, there's a point where, okay, we now have 100,000 South Africans on Blue Sky. That's enough for us now to really start to think about it from a brand point of view. But I
Yeah.
do feel like sometimes there's such a knee-jerk reaction to the next best thing, and this desperate need, because when you are an early adopter in the right space, you do win big. The people who
Yeah.
got into Facebook when, like you're saying, in 2011 and developed the
Yeah.
Facebook group,
Yeah.
they are now laughing all the way to the bank. Same with people who've done that well on LinkedIn and on Instagram. It's very difficult now to make inroads on those established channels because you've got all the big guys. I mean, YouTube's another place where people who started making videos, 15 years ago are now reaping the rewards of that. People who are starting YouTube channels, it's always a bit of a struggle.
100.
I'd like to pivot though into we're talking about people and how we have to bring value to people, but there's also a internal value that we need to get from people in our organizations. Most organizations don't have more than one or two social media managers. An agency would have more, obviously, because you're working for a bunch of different organizations. But if you did have your own internal marketing team, if you're lucky, you have one dedicated social media manager. That person's responsible for making all the content, making all the copy, managing all those things. They can't do that alone. They often need thought leaders from inside the company, maybe a CEO to work with them, other people creating content to help them populate their social media channels. And I've seen how difficult that can be to get non-marketers and even non-social media people. So even marketers who aren't doing social media sometimes are resistant to support the social media manager. How do you get people inside your organization excited about helping the social media manager create content and to get the social media channels to actually thrive?
Well, I mean, two things. I think for me, first, there's always this notion that I hear that if you are a brand, your employees are your biggest ambassadors. They should go out there and talk about you. No, they don't have to. No, why should they do that? Because I'm employed to work here as a clerk, and I'm not here to go and poke you on Facebook. So I think for me it starts with educating the people who you work with internally. And I mean it's something as simple as having like those little mini flow schools like weekday schools with them. This is social media, this is Facebook, this is Instagram, this is how it works, and this is why you need to be on these platforms, giving your internal people value first by telling them these are the platforms and this is why we use them, and this is how they can help you as an internal person with your own social media, with your own projects and your own things that you have. And then once we've got those people and you've got them interested, when there's something that's happening, let's say your brand, let's say you're Pepsi and your brand is launching a new thing and you're going to go out there on social media, giving them first dibs on stuff before they hear about it on the news or like on TV, being like, hey, you are the staff here in this company. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to post about. This is the new campaign. Because then when you do that, then they feel like, okay, you're considering us. We're part of your family. And then they're going to feel more inclined to actually follow you on social media and to engage with you. I mean, in my past life at Momentum, I had social media brand ambassadors who were internal. People who worked in IT that you wouldn't think would want to be internal, but they love the brand, but they don't know how to communicate about it. They don't know what to say because all they think about is code. So we had this internal course with them and would literally bring them into and say, okay, if you want to use a cover image, we've got this basket for you. You can use this cover image. If you want to write copy, this is the idea that we think you should go with. And then we actually opened a WhatsApp group and said, when you have a question, come and ask us and we'll help guide you. Because people want to help, but they're scared. Am I going to go out there and say the right thing? Because they know that the internet doesn't forget. And if they know social media will cancel you. So I think it's about bringing people closer to you, closer to your mission, educating them, giving them the tools that they need, and actually allowing them to interpret that in the way that they want to on social media. And once you've got those internal people, like they were literally vying for space when I had this thing. They were like, okay, Mills, when is the next event happening? What do you want me to do? Because now they felt like they were part of the social media team. And then it increased employee advocacy and brand love and all those things that make you feel warm and fuzzy about working for a certain organization. I mean, it was a long way of doing it, but it worked. And then we ended up saying, okay, we're only going to have 10 people working in the brand advocacy thing. And then people wanted to be part of the 10.
So the notes I'm just making as you're speaking, because this is awesome. I kind of have somehow I wrote it like this. It's the new BEE because I can't believe that it's basic, it's exciting, and it's easy, right?
Love
so like
it.
you're making. You're making it. You're taking it down to the most. You're not hitting them with the most complex social media stuff. Otherwise, they would have your job. You're making it easy for them. So like you're making all of the content available for them, all of the graphics that they need. It's not like now they have to go to Canva and create their own stuff. And then you're getting them excited. You're showing them why this is valuable for them, why it's exciting to do. And I don't think you'll have anyone complaining about that BEE. Hopefully not.
No problem.
But that's
that one. No one will complain.
But it's so interesting because we were talking about our audience externally, our social media audiences, and the only way you keep them around and keep them growing is by offering them value, whether it's making it interesting or exciting, or that's the way you keep them around is by offering them value and thinking about them and what their needs are. And now you're saying, actually, the same thing is true for your internal stakeholders. It's what do I get out of this? Why you're asking me to take my time out of my workday to do something that for you, what value does that bring to me? So really showing them how valuable that is for them. It's a very people focused job. Like you're really thinking about people a lot of the time.
All the time, because people read about people. People are interested in other people. I always say this. That is why reality shows are like the biggest grossing things in the world, because I want to know what Millie ate for breakfast. I want to know if Millie went for a walk, and I want to get lost in her world. And when I see that, and I mean, even with reviews, now with reviews, when you go on Airbnb, you're not going to go on, you'll go on the website, but you want to see if Terrence went to this place, what were his thoughts? So making it people focused it also helps internally and externally. And for me, that's why I'm saying I hate it when organizations assume that because I work at Standard Bank, you mustn't use brand names, because I work at Millie's Corporation, I'm now supposed to be an ambassador of Millie's Corporation. No, you have to earn me the same way that you earn Terrence, who's an external person. Make me fall in love with you. Give me a reason to believe. Give me value, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm firmly behind Millie's Corporation because Millie has thought about me and has given me something that can help not only her corporation but also me as well. Because sorry if I'm being long-winded, when I was doing the social media class with the internal staff, they ended up having better platforms, being thought leaders on LinkedIn themselves, learning how to create content and curate, because they're like, oh, this is not bad. This is what I want to say now about myself, about my journey. This is what I can do. And it all started from help the brand grow. And then it just became a whole thing of, a person, I give and I get, and you give and you get.
A big thank you to Millie for her time and experience, and a big thank you to you for listening to this episode of the SA Digital Marketing Podcast. You can connect with Millie on LinkedIn, and maybe you can have as much fun chatting to her as I did. I'll put a link to her profile in the show notes. If you're listening on Spotify, please leave a comment in the app and I'll respond to you there. Otherwise, you can send your thoughts, opinions, and questions to podcast@tmdigital.co.za. That's podcast@T for Tango, M for Mother, digital.co.za. And of course, please don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. This was the South African Digital Marketing Podcast.